There are all sorts of frauds in Washington, D.C., because the town has become a town based upon fraud. You know, it's on the swampland and it all sinks back and forth, and I guess it settled down over time, but it is long since departed, having anything to do with being based in God's word. So there's a whole series of frauds. And there are some good news moments in the Trump administration, not all good news. Increasingly confused about some of the things going on there, but there's all sorts of frauds in that particular town. But it doesn't compare to the fallen country, the spiritually, politically, utterly fallen country of Seattle. And I know Seattle makes the news from time to time, and that's kind of fun for me to see because we left that separate country. It was Babylon then. It's worse now. It's Babylon times 10. But I wanted to start with the fraud of D.C. and one of the chief fraudsters, Jasmine Crockett, who sometimes speaks as she was raised, which is as a private school, $100,000 per year, non-Ebonic speaker. But when she's speaking in public, she's not code shifting, it's performing, it's an act. She does things like this. She's made herself a game to play with the witness.
I want to play a game. It's called Trump or Trans. You ready?
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to tell me whether or not it is Trump or trans people that are responsible. You understand?
Got it.
Okay, very good. The first one, gutted medical research.
Can we just pause there and just enjoy the massive irony with that statement? Can we just pause and think about that, the gutted medical research? Okay. Yeah, and use it to harm kids. Continuing, Jasmine Crockett, and I'll shut myself up here.
Kidnapping Americans and sending them to foreign countries.
Well, maybe just one other thing. There are laws in the fallen separate country of Washington State where they can kidnap your kids from any state. If your kid has become confused about, their physical identity. Okay, shut myself up. I'm going to let the important Jasmine Crockett continue.
AKA deporting them.
Trump.
Driving us into a recession.
Trump.
Increasing the cost of everything.
Trump.
So you get the point. You get the point. Jasmine Crockett. Now, that's the Ebonic speaking Jasmine Crockett. I'm going to play some audio and some video that later for other platforms is going to have to be sliced and diced. They're the publisher. They do what they want on radio, audio, podcasting, on Rumble. All this just goes straight out to you. But it comes from the separate country of Seattle, and I will tell you it's pretty disturbing, and it comes from a group that has labeled themselves. This is their label for themselves. I'm not making the label. TransTifa and Antifa, who've done about $1 million in damage to a building there in the University of Washington campus, which is a lot of money for a couple days of, quote, work. And that's the sort of damage that can happen to you very, very quickly if you are a small business owner or a medium-sized business owner, and you think that having a debit card or a credit card with your business name on it means that's corporate credit. It's not, unless you got that the hard way. When I went to my bank to talk about corporate credit, they said, yeah, absolutely. We'll give you a corporate credit card. Sure, you're a great customer, and here you go. But they wanted me to use my personal credit, mine and my wife's. That's not corporate credit. That welds your business to your personal assets, which is what your bank wants. In 7 easy steps, my friends at Visible can help you and me, and they are helping me, build actual corporate credit so that my business is the business, not our personal assets. If you don't do this, if you have a problem, someone decides to sue you, God forbid there's a massive mistake in the business, people can go after your personal assets like your home and your retirement account. 7 easy steps. It starts with a free consultation, no obligation. Here's their website. It's govisible.com. That's govisible.com. And that sort of stuff is going to protect us. It didn't protect the University of Washington because it's a different line of attack. Now, as you're listening to this, remember that as Christian people, our enemies are not flesh and blood, but the spirits and dark spirits in the dark portions of the heavenly realms. So let's not think of these guys as just flesh and blood. They're clearly demonically captured. Listen to what they say. And this is, again, they label themselves TransTifa. And they're part of Antifa, a subset of Antifa. These are some elderly people who are leaving an event where Riley Gaines spoke. Riley Gaines is a proponent of biological reality for all of us, particularly for female athletes.
Back to the self. Love you, old.
So are you gonna go tonight and be a good boy?
It would be so beautiful to see her swinging back and forth.
Are you gonna be submissive and drop dead for me, babe?
Imagine if a rifle you'd be so beautiful, Dad.
Now, as they're walking, there are so-called, the elderly couples walking ahead, there are so-called police officers who are walking just ahead of the self-labeled TransTifa and Antifa, who, of course, because they are stinking cowards, are wrapped up in black box clothing and have their faces entirely covered in bags, which is probably a favor to the general public. And I know who the guy on the right is. I know him by voice. And he's a Democrat operative. Oh, and you think I'm just making that up, that I just think he's a Democrat operative? I'm not. And in fact, Alex, if you go back, producer Alex in the studio, if you go back and think about some of the work we did during the seizure of the Capitol Hill Chop area, that's the guy who yelled, "I'm in the top 95% of intelligence or IQ." That's that guy. That's the "I'm in the top 95% of IQ," meaning the bottom 95%, because top would be 5%. So the University of Washington campus had that going on, and they continued to harass this older couple, and it goes on for a couple of different minutes. Those are threats, by the way. And the police could turn and say they have probable cause now to arrest them for threats. But again, the police allowed themselves to be run out of there. And Antifa got to own that. And courtesy to, or just hat tip to Katie Davis Court for getting that video, Jonathan Cho for distributing it, Andy No for distributing it, the Post Millennial. And incidentally, Katie is often on my Seattle radio affiliate, 570 KVI, with my friend Ari Hoffman, who covers these things. Now, do you think I'm just making this up, that that's a Democrat operative? I'm not. I recognize his voice, and I recognize the massive space he takes up. There was a King County public defender, a lawyer, who was arrested among 30 of the Antifa who occupied the University of Washington building. We're working with law enforcement and through our own disciplinary process to ensure those responsible face appropriate consequences for the action, said UW President Anna Marie Koss. No, she's not there. No, you're not. You're not going to do anything. You could have said to the Seattle police, please, please, please remove these people from the campus before they do another $1 million in damage. And here's the guy. The picture of the King County public defender. His name is Sam Sioka. King County public defender was purportedly arrested during the violence. And they're not protests, they're riots. They're burning things down. They're trying to destroy the building. Because they pretend this is about trying to get the people at the University of Washington to separate from Boeing and stop doing research for Boeing. That's not what they're after. By the way, if you're watching the video version of the show, Alex, that's the dude. Oh, you found this? You found this. I think this is the guy who was walking there. Listen to this voice. And thank God for a producer like Alex who found this all of a sudden. Okay, roll
We're in
this.
the top 99 percentile of intelligent people on this planet.
Am I wrong, or does that sound? Doesn't that sound exactly like him? That's him. I call. See, don't please. I sound like Rush here for a second. God rest them all. Don't you people don't doubt me. And I began this by talking about the rot at Washington D.C. and I did, but it doesn't compare to Seattle. But Seattle's just steps ahead. They're just a couple of decades ahead in trying to surrender to the left. This is a conversation from Washington, D.C. Representative Dean talking to Kash Patel. And before we think all things are good with Kash Patel, I'm warning you, not all things are good with Kash Patel. Representative Dean had asked Kash Patel. What she said was, when can I expect the FBI at my door? And Kash Patel said, you know who's targeted by a weaponized FBI? Me. You should read the book. Dean said, you should worry more about your memory, or should I worry more about your memory or veracity? And Patel said, your lack of candor. You're accusing me of perjury. You tell the people how I broke the law. Have the audacity to actually put the facts forward instead of lying for political banter so you can have a 20-second donation hit. Great bit by Kash Patel. But Kash Patel is not the hope we wanted. Now, see, the fallen country of Seattle is one thing. They're just really trying to surrender to Antifa. But who is Kash Patel surrendering to? Because Kash Patel was asked by Senator Kennedy about the Epstein files. Did Jeffrey Epstein hang himself? Did someone else unalive him? Kash Patel said, I believe he hung himself in a cell in the Metropolitan. Are you going to release all that information before I die? And Kash Patel's response, I hesitate to even play. Because it sounded a lot like Washington, D.C. The same Washington, D.C. we've been watching for years, because what Kash Patel effectively said was that Kash Patel's working on it. And they want to do this in a way that doesn't put out into the ether anything that could harm the victims. Well, then just remove their names. Or anything that could harm sort of ongoing investigations. So we don't care. We were promised this and we want it. Now, that's a national basis, and the Seattle thing is a local basis. And what exactly is the through line? It's the sandwich theory. Smart, scheming, evil people on top, subservient, silly people on the bottom, like a megaphone boy, like threat boy. He's stupid and subservient on the bottom. Smart, evil, scheming people on the top, getting that guy to do these things. And in the middle, there's this retired couple. Or I'm assuming they're retired. They're of a retired age. They went to go see Riley Gaines speak. That was their great crime. They went to go see an Olympic-level swimmer speak about women's sports and biological morality. In other words, they're trying to live life. You have this guy, this King County defender, public defender. He is what? Subservient? Is he one of the smart, evil, scheming people who eventually wants to rise to the top? Probably. That's why he chose this career. And at the very, very tip top, we had placed people like Kash Patel to start to attack some of this. And in some ways, he's done great. On vicious crimes against children this week, great announcement. But not on these vicious crimes against children. It's a human failing. It's a sin failing. It's a fear failing. And did someone get to him? I don't know. I know this, that every single Democrat politician in the separate country of Seattle, in that fallen state, every single one of them is complicit with all of this. Every single Democrat. And by the way, a good portion of Republicans